It was another nightmarish performance for the Royals in Cleveland. Let's talk about it next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is a Monday edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. You also can listen to us on wherever you listen to your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wondering what this channel is all about and what to expect, I bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes in length, and Chance Lebo, in his episode just posted right now on the game, he does the Locked On Royals postcast, which he goes to you live for about 15 to 20 minutes after each and every game. Before we get started, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off on your first year. Not a lot of good to talk about tonight. And for a road trip like this one, this late in the season, man, you would have hoped for the Royals to do a little better than being no hit until the 8th inning and trailing 10-0 until 2 outs in the 9th inning. Jack Caglione was the one to end the shutout. But nobody really cares about the shutout when you lose 10-2. It doesn't really matter if you lose 10-0, 10-2. I mean, sure, if you want to just say, oh, the box score looks a little bit better, and it's great that Jack Caglione added 2 more RBIs to his season. Maybe you can look at it that optimistically. But overall, just a disastrous game for the Royals. And the only thing I could think of for talking about this game is, why does it always feel like when the Royals go to Cleveland, games like this happen? Even games where they're leading and they're playing well, you get some collapse that happens at some point in the game. I remember last year in a pivotal series against Cleveland, they were waltzing in there. It was probably middle of the summer at some point, and the Royals led 5-0. You know, they were teeing off on, it wasn't Savale or anything like that. He was in Milwaukee. It was somebody, maybe a Gavin Williams, that they were facing, or it was a Bybee, and I knew Seth Lugo was throwing. And you had a 5-0 lead, and you felt like, man, this is a game to steal. You're up 5-0. Offense looks good. Lugo's rolling. And the Royals collapsed. Bobby Witt Jr. had a brutal throwing error late in the game, and the Guardians took the lead and never really looked back. And it's just that the margin for error seems to be so small there. We're in the first inning. I mean, Ryan Bergert, who's been one of the best road starters this year, he just gives up a 2-out RBI double to Kyle Manzardo, who the Royals can't seem to get out. And I got no problem. Like this morning, it was funny. A couple of people were saying, well, you're going to jinx him. And you can run with that, right? Ryan Bergert, he has the 8th lowest ERA with a minimum of 8 starts this year among guys throwing on the road. Stephen Kolek was 9th. So you have 2 guys in the top 10, and Chris Bubich was top 5 before his injury. Now, this is a minimum of 8 starts. So some guys, have had way more than 8 starts, but Bergert had been really good in his short time in the big leagues. Tonight, not so much. And I will say that for Ryan Bergert, a start like this is to be expected every once in a while. But honestly, it was the way Cleveland was getting some of these runs that plays into this first segment of, I can't really explain it. It just happens when the Royals play the Guardians. Now, Manzardo, he ripped his RBI double. I mean, that thing was crushed. It was left a little bit up in the zone, and that's where he clearly was looking, and you trail 1-0. But then the inning that really started to bug me, it wasn't even the 6-run inning, the 6-run 4th inning that put this game out of reach. It was the 3rd inning. It was right before that collapse. He gives up a softly hit, or maybe it was it was a certain at bat I'm looking back to in the 4th inning. It was Kafis, who just had this broken bat RBI double. And the inning before that, there were 3 softly hit balls. That's what I'm thinking of right now. I'm going off the top of my head, even though this is pre-recorded, so I could always go back and edit it out. But the Guardians had 3 singles. You had Rocchio with a 50% swing, soft single to left center. Stephen Kwan, same thing. And then you get 2 outs. Kyle Isbell has the double play where catches the fly ball, guns somebody out at third base. think you can get out of it, but you're facing Jose Ramirez, who does a lot of damage against the Royals. And he just gets one up and in, guides it to right field. And even in that at bat, I'm not confident whatsoever that Ryan Bergert gets him out. It's nothing against Ryan Bergert. It does have a little bit to do with how good Jose Ramirez is and has been against the Royals, but it's Cleveland. Again, we're in spots like that. I just don't expect the Royals to get the big out. In spots where you have to drive in a run, you need to do something and you need to move the run over and put yourself in a good spot. I don't count on the Royals doing it in Cleveland. Now, it's weird because last year the Royals went in around this time of the year. It was maybe late August, and they took 3 of the first 4 against the Guardians, had tied them for first place, then led in game 4 and collapsed late. The Guardians took back first place in the Central and never looked back because the Royals lost 7 in a row after that. But again, that kind of plays in that part where even when you think you're playing well, last year I want to say they had a winning record against Cleveland in general. But going back to really since it became Progressive Field, you don't see a lot of success there. Now, there have been some really good Cleveland teams and some really bad Royals teams that played into that. But even the Royals teams of 2013, 14, and 15, when the Guardians, at the time the Indians, were not what they were, they still found a way to beat the Royals. It's just that ballpark. It's just that team that you can't really explain it. I look to the Phillies this weekend, right? If the Royals get steamrolled in Philadelphia, I can understand that their lineup, though Trey Turner and Alec Bohm are on the injured list, I can look at that lineup and say, okay, that's a really tough lineup. You just clearly were not able to hold down. With Cleveland, it's different. And it used to be their rotation and their bullpen of, man, you got to go through Shane Bieber. Before that, you got to go through Corey Kluber and Mike Clevenger. Even Zach Plesac had a couple of great years. Trevor Bauer had a couple of great years there. They had the elite rotation. They had the elite bullpen. You couldn't slow them down. And their offense, they had built a really strong core with Jason Kipnis, Carlos Santana, Francisco Lindor. I mean, do not get it twisted. That was a loaded and talented team. I mean, they won 22 games in a row for crying out loud before the Royals snapped that streak in Cleveland. But this Cleveland team is not one that should boat race you 10-2. Slade Cecconi, I believe that's how you pronounce it, he was great tonight. Absolutely phenomenal. Took a no-hitter into the 8th inning. Again, he should not be taking a no-hitter into the 8th inning against this Royals team. And this Royals team has had its ups and downs offensively. They don't have Bobby Witt Jr. in the lineup. We'll talk about that in the second segment. But this Cleveland team, you know that talent-wise, you either match up with them just fine or you are better than them in some aspects. Their elite closer is not coming back this year. You got the gambling investigation. One of the guys they traded for, and Ortiz, gambling investigation. He's not with the team right now. The guy that, like Joey Cantillo, starting tomorrow. You do have Gavin Williams starting in game 4 of this series against Stephen Kolek, and that's a guy that very well could take a no-hitter in the 8th inning. Like, that's somebody with the numbers, the ability he has. I could see it. Slade had a 6+ ERA last year. In fact, it was north of 6.5. This year, he's been better, and Cleveland certainly likes some aspects of his game. That's just inexcusable, in my opinion. I know baseball's tough. I'm not the one up there that's trying to hit some of these pitches. But in a playoff race against a team like this, a loss like tonight, you just expect it at times to happen in Cleveland. I really cannot put into words why it happens, why they're never able to hit anybody when they're facing the Guardians. I cannot understand why their starters who look good pitch in Cleveland and then everything goes sideways. It's just one of those things in baseball. And Target Field has done worse things to the Royals. So maybe the Central as a whole has just been nightmarish on the road for Kansas City for quite some time. I looked at this 7-game road trip, and I saw the 4 in Cleveland. And at this point, you are hoping just to split and find a way to just get a half game ahead of the Guardians. But you're still chasing Texas, and you're chasing Seattle, and time's running out. I'm a broken record in saying that you cannot be wasting too many more opportunities. And these 4 series, they're against good baseball teams. Cleveland's now ahead of you. Philadelphia is a playoff team. Toronto is leading the American League East. Seattle is in a playoff spot. you're not getting the Angels and Twins anymore. And maybe that will sting when it's all said and done that they went 4-5 on that homestand against Detroit, the Angels, and Minnesota. I mean, losing on Sunday. We didn't do an episode, this morning talking about that because I knew tonight's game was at 5:40 and we'd have more to get into, but clearly not. I mean, this team, they have not scored a lot of runs in the last couple weeks or so. Yes, they had the outburst of 11 on Saturday, but they get 2 against Minnesota on Friday. They get 1 yesterday and 2 tonight. Against the Angels, they were not scoring a lot of runs either. It's not the best time to be slumping offensively, and certainly not a good time to be slumping in a place like Cleveland where the Royals always seem to struggle. We'll take our first break of the show. When we come back, Matt Quatrero did say that Bobby Witt Jr. was progressing well, could have been involved in the action tonight, potentially, but I'll tell you this now, he's going to have to be in the lineup tomorrow and moving forward. They just cannot be without his bat. We'll dive into that next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can listen to us on wherever you download your podcast. Want to tell you about the title sponsor in Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth. Whether it's 401k properties, investments, or anything that you have there and you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. This is a segment that doesn't really need a lot of extra data to back it up. I mean, I'm simply saying the Royals need their best player back. And this Royals team at the end of the day, if we were to define what their season has been, there's been a little bit of bad luck. There's been a lot of injury. And if you combine those together, you would get what's happening with Bobby Witt Jr., what happened with Cole Reagans, with Chris Bubich, with Seth Lugo, with guys in the bullpen, with multiple guys in the lineup. Just bad luck, bad fortune. And last year was a team that just dealt with perfect health. Their rotation was always intact. Their bullpen was always intact. Their lineup, I mean, everything top to bottom. I mean, yes, you had the Vinny injury late in the year, but that was the first big injury that had hit the lineup. Your starting 9, you had pretty much the same group each and every night. And at this stage of your playoff push, to lose Bobby Witt Jr. for these last 3 games, and the Royals are, or I guess I should say, lose him for the last 3.5 games. They won on Friday. They dominated on Saturday. They lose on Sunday. They lose tonight. You can't really have him out even tomorrow. I know you don't want to force it. And if he's not 100%, really, I don't think there's a need to rush him back. But if there is a 90% Bobby Witt Jr., 95%, you pretty much have to force it at this point. If you got the go-ahead of it's all about pain tolerance and there's nothing worse that can happen with these back spasms, they said on the broadcast tonight when talking to him, it's one of the worst pains he's dealt with. So clearly, I mean, it's pretty bad. I mean, he plays through a lot, I would say. He's a very durable player. And if these back spasms are keeping him out for multiple games, they have to be pretty bad. Now, tonight, he took some infield work, got some baseball activity, still wasn't ready to go in the starting lineup. As I said before we went to break, Q had mentioned that if there was a spot where maybe they could bring him off the bench, they would think about it. But I still gave it a very low percentage chance that he was going to get in there. Tomorrow, you have to see him in the lineup. Michael Garcia can handle shortstop, but it's more so about who else is getting into the game, who else is taking a spot in that lineup. And I enjoy seeing Jack Caglione play. I enjoy seeing Carter Jensen play. But for a lot of people out there that were saying, well, I want Caglione to play in right field, I want Yaz to be in left, we got our answer as to why Mike Yastrzemski does not play left field. He had a brutal misread on a Brian Rocchio double in that 6-run fourth inning, and he just never looked like he had a beat on it. It was a very catchable ball. I don't need to see that the rest of the way. I really don't. I'd rather have Yaz in right. If you want to DH Caglione a few times, sure, but that just can't happen again. And I feel the Royals tried to do that tonight, get Jensen and Caglione in there. They both had fine nights for the most part. Carter Jensen walked twice. Caglione had the only 2 runs of support for the Royals pitching staff, and he also walked in this game. So they did a lot more than plenty of guys in the lineup. But to not have your best player at this stage of the season in a playoff push, it goes into this definition of the 2025 Royals. They just haven't been healthy when it's mattered most. Some of their most productive guys they were counting on to drive the bus of this team, they have not been healthy. And most of them have missed the entire year. Cole Reagans, to lose him when they did, and you go all the way back to June. He tried to come back off the injured list, start against the Cardinals. It wasn't there. He's been on the shelf since. Now, maybe we see him before the end of the season, but if the Royals fall any further than 5 games back, there's no need to send him back out there. Yes, it would be great to see Cole Reagans pitch again, but if you're not playing for anything at this point in the season, then no, there's not a need to rush him back. We'll see what happens tonight in Seattle. Seattle's playing the Cardinals. If they lose, the Royals are still 2 games back, but now they're chasing the Rangers and the Guardians again. So there's more teams that are in front of you. Things can change in the blink of an eye, and the Royals are going to have to respond in a very positive way tomorrow, the next couple of days, if they want to seriously gain some ground here. And I just don't believe they can do it without Bobby Witt Jr. This offense is not good enough to just survive an entire week without that bat in their lineup. And I would say a lot of teams in baseball, if you took away their best player, their 7-WAR player, their guy that can hit close to 300, last year hit 330, 30 bombs, drove in over 100, you take that bat out of the lineup and the top of your lineup, you aren't going to be making that up anywhere. And I haven't hated the way they've constructed the lineup. You've got Garcia hitting second. He's been your second best hitter this year. Vinny's still hitting third. Salvi's cleaning up. You got Adam Frazier in there. You've got Jack Caglione in there. There are some fun bats and productive bats that you can still see in this lineup. To overcome that, though, it's pretty unlikely. I mean, we saw the Yankees earlier this year go on a putrid stretch because Aaron Judge was out. I mean, you take away a bat like that in the lineup, and his production is better than Bobby Witt Jr.'s. You take away that bat, you're not making it up anywhere. And this Royals team, even with Bobby Witt Jr., had gone through its ups and downs, had its fair amount of inconsistencies. And it's been a big reason why they're hovering around 500. I mean, Jonathan India is not available for this team right now. Bobby Witt Jr. has missed the last couple of games. Reagans, Lugo, Bubic, you're having to piece together the rotation the rest of the way. They have had some pretty serious blows to big parts of their team. And this has been one of the biggest. And I wonder if Bobby Witt Jr. is available on Sunday, if he's available tonight, do these games go any differently? I mean, you look at the final scores, it was 5-1 and then 10-2. Even Bobby Witt Jr. is not going to be good enough to swing a 4-run loss into a 1-run win or a 10-2 loss into a 1 or a 2-run win. He's not that inhuman. But early on in the game, in certain spots in that lineup where you go from Yastrzemski to Garcia, I mean, you have 2 good hitters right there and guys that have been above league average this year, but you're still missing Bobby Witt Jr. And if they're 3 games back come tomorrow morning, I'm not sure I can look at the lineup card tomorrow without him in it and feel good at all about this team's chances of rallying and putting together a fantastic run to close the season. He's just too good of a player, and this lineup is too top-heavy to overcome that. We saw at certain points this season when Vinny Pasquantino wasn't producing, when Salvador Perez wasn't producing, that it's too much to overcome. That's too much production in your lineup that you're trying to replace. And the Royals don't have that depth. This team does not have the depth to overcome star players going down. And let me be clear, not many teams do. I mean, there are very few teams in baseball that can lose an elite player and just find a way to piece it together for multiple weeks. The Rangers are technically doing it right now. They have lost every key player in the books, it feels like. And yet here they are, taking series from Houston, finding a way early on to get out ahead of Milwaukee. As I'm recording, that game's still going on, so I don't know the outcome of it. But they've done a good job of piecing together good stretches without star players. And for the Royals, they haven't been able to do that this year. And for Bobby Witt Jr., if he's over 90%, you got to be out there tomorrow. You really do. And I'm not one to force a player to play through injury. That's a very key thing here. I said, if it's a pain tolerance thing and you're about 90%, you got to be out there. You're too valuable of a piece to this team. And if the Royals lose tomorrow and you're already in a 2-0 hole against Cleveland, they've now jumped you by, I guess that would be a game and a half. I mean, now you're chasing Cleveland, Texas, and Seattle, and that gap is only widening. And yeah, you look back at that homestand, and you look back at when Bobby Witt Jr. had to be sidelined with these back spasms. But tomorrow, if he's in the lineup, I'm not saying they can win that game, but I'll feel a ton better if they can get that regular 1-9 back out there against Joey Cantillo. All right, we'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, how will the Royals respond to this nightmarish start from tonight? We'll talk about that next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. Want to tell you about our final sponsor tonight in Zippix. For nicotine users, Zippix provides a discreet way to satisfy cravings and hand-to-mouth habit without vaping or smoking. Zippix can be a helpful tool as you work to reduce your dependence on vaping. Available in 6 great flavors with 2 milligrams and 3 milligram nicotine options. And if you need energy without the crash, their caffeine toothpicks are a game changer. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com and use code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. Must be 21 or older to order, and warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's zippix.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. Zip more, smoke less with Zippix toothpicks. Tonight was a disaster. There's no other way to put it. This team was not really that prepared against anybody Cleveland was going to throw out there. I mean, I don't know if it was just Slade that they had to be worried about or if it was anybody that the Guardians were going to start. There was just not much of a game plan there. I mean, he had them in the palm of his hand all night long. And the Royals offense was just not putting together many great at-bats against them. There were a couple of times they put the ball in play with some force, right? Hitting the ball hard. We talk about that all the time, and eventually the ball is going to fall. It didn't for seven innings. Michael Massey was the one to break up the no-hitter tonight in the 8th inning, and it wasn't a ball that was hit all that hard. So he dominated from start to finish. You get the 2 runs in the 9th inning, it really doesn't matter. When you're down 10-0, 10-2, doesn't make you feel that great. But tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday are going to tell us a lot about this current state of the Royals. They have gone through their injuries. They have gone through their ups and downs. They have seen this Cleveland team plenty this year, right? It's the second time they visited Cleveland. You'd have to go all the way back to April, the last time they did. I want to say it was on that first road trip of the year. And if you are a team that is going to make a run, that is finally going to step up and knock out an opponent like this, prove that you are the most threatening team to the Seattle Mariners, you got to respond in a big way over these next 3. And as I said in the previous segment, I can live with splitting a 4-game series. You're not really gaining much ground. But if you take 2 of the next 3, you at least can have some momentum going into Philadelphia. I would still say, though, you need to take 2 of 3 in Philadelphia if you're going to split this series with Cleveland. You're just too late in the game to be only taking a handful of games. Because if Seattle hits their stride and they start winning at home, as they've done all season long, there's not going to be a deficit that you can overcome. And last year, there were a couple times that we did this on the podcast, which was they had some crushing loss. They blew a game late. The bullpen, they just bottomed out. And we talked about what this team did the next day would tell us a lot about who they are. And the same thing goes when you blow somebody out of the water. You just, first inning on, you dominate. And that's what really happened on Saturday with the Royals. And I'm sure a lot of Twins players and Rocco Baldelli and Twins fans said, I'm curious what they look like tomorrow because you're playing to avoid a sweep. You got nothing to play for to begin with, and you're only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. The Royals tomorrow will send Noah Cameron to the mound, and it will be Joey Cantillo going for the Cleveland Guardians. So if Noah Cameron goes out there tomorrow and holds Cleveland down and the offense wakes up a little bit, I'm sure it'll be a righty-heavy lineup, then yeah, that's going to tell me a little bit about this team because this should be a humiliating loss in every way, shape, and form. There is nothing good that you can take from tonight's game. If this was June, I'm not even sure you could take anything positive away from a loss in June, but at least you could say something like, well, Jack Caglione got 2 RBIs. Tonight, I'm not even going to do that, right? I'm not going to say that's a positive. That's a highlight of tonight's game. It's the only highlight the Royals have. Maybe Luke Maile throwing a scoreless 9th inning. You can add that to the highlight reel. There's just nothing good about this game. And I know those players are feeling the exact same way. But what we've seen in this Matt Quatraro era is this team does have a good ability of flushing a bad loss. And they're desperately going to need to do that. If they can find a way to come out tomorrow and really show that this first game was just a bad outcome for them, it was a bad night. And in baseball, that happens. As much as I would like to sit here and go through each and every inning, oh, this was wrong, and this was poor location from Berger, this was a bad route, this was a bad AB. Unfortunately, baseball just happens sometimes, and you have a really good night, and then you have a really bad night. And you're hoping Cleveland has 3 bad nights in a row, that you can respond from this, go take the next 3, and roll into Philadelphia. Now, that is all on the Royals here and how they respond. It could go the other way, too. Last night really buried them mentally. And you stroll to the ballpark tomorrow, and the same thing happens. That is absolutely a possibility of the next 3 days. That Cleveland's just a team that's in their head mentally. They find it hard to beat this team, beat this club in Cleveland. And they just don't have enough time left in the season to play baseball like that. They can't have another loss like that. And I know a loss counts the same as a win, right? And just it's 1 for 1, right? If you win tomorrow, it's just 1 win. It's not 5 wins. And this 1 loss is not 5 losses. It just stings. It just hurts. You didn't play well at all. Now, would I feel differently if the Royals led 5-0 tonight and lost 7-5? I absolutely would. But it still is pretty frustrating to know the Royals at no point in this game were ever really in it. They never threatened. They didn't get a hit till the 8th inning, right? Even though they trailed 1-0 and came to the plate in the 2nd and the 3rd inning with a chance to tie the game up on 1 swing, they didn't. Like the last time you might have had somewhat of hope for this game was when Carter Jensen led off the 3rd inning, I believe, with a walk, and you were down by 1, and the lineup's about to turn over. That was the last time you had a glimmer of hope. But tomorrow, this is when you can take tonight's game and say that's in the past. And we have a chance now to feel better about this series. You got to flush it, though. And I feel Bobby Witt Jr. has got to be in this lineup. You absolutely need more from the top of the order. They have to be the ones to take all this pressure off the bottom half. You need more from Mike Yastrzemski. You need more from Maikel Garcia, more from Vinny Pasquantino, more from Salvador Perez. You're looking to these guys to change the outcome of these last 3 weeks of the season. You need them to go on their best stretch of the year. And this offense is starting to teeter a little bit. It's starting to look like it did before the All-Star break, where they're not threatening that much. They're not coming through with a runner at 3rd and 1 out. They're not coming through with runners in scoring position. All of those things will drive you crazy. And at the end of the day, as I'm going to wrap up this episode with, it might just be a 500 team that doesn't get it done this year. That's what I think has made so many people upset is you are looking at them through the lens of they need to be a playoff team. They're right there. They were a game back on Friday night, and they went into Saturday with an opportunity to be tied for a playoff spot. That's how quickly things can change. So that is the optimistic point of view. Hey, by Thursday, this team might be in a playoff spot, or they might be completely buried. But there is a reality in which we keep waiting for them to turn things on. We keep waiting for everything to level out, them go on this hot stretch, and they just don't. And they finish around 500. I know a lot of you in the comments have said that. It's just a 500 baseball team. That very well may be the case. But if you're still out there hoping for this team to turn things around. Well, yeah, it's got to start tomorrow again. There's no more, well, you can play some average baseball. No, these teams are too good over these next 4 series to play like you did against the Angels and play like you did on Sunday against the Twins. It just can't happen. And tonight, they played one of their worst games of the season. No other way around it. Didn't hit well at all, didn't pitch well at all. And tomorrow, you got to change that immediately. You need a good start from Noah Cameron, and you need this offense to get started early. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every day. For your second, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, we are going to recap again what happened in Game 2. We'll probably be a little bit later, and look forward this week for our episodes to come out after the game, just because I would be able to record like an hour before first pitch, and then it just kind of feels too late in the game. So look for our episodes coming out a little bit later on in the evening. Shouldn't be too much of an issue on Wednesday and Thursday. Tomorrow night, though, it will be a little bit later on. But absolutely check out Chance Lebo's Locked On Royals postcast right after the game. But until tomorrow night, you take it easy, Kansas City.